Hey loves, I'm Sendal and today we're going to talk about scalp fibrosis. Scalp fibrosis is the hardening and thickening of the scalp's tissue due to chronic inflammation. This process disrupts the natural blood flow of the scalp, the nutrient absorption to the scalp and the blood supply of the hair's follicle, and a weakening or almost a depletion of hair follicle function, which leads to miniaturization and permanent hair loss if left untreated. Is common in conditions like androgenetic alopecia, traction alopecia, and chronic versions of scalp inflammation. And these types of chronic scalp inflammation is going to come from a continuous regurgitation of bacterial and microfibril or microfloral growth on the human scalp, which we talk about all the time on my channel. You stick around until the end of this video, not only will you understand exactly what scalp fibrosis is, you'll understand the triggers that lead to the inflammation that ends up leading to scalp fibrosis and things like, and all the other hair follicle disorders is connected to. So let's get into it.
I am back. What it do, baby?
Before you get started, if we haven't done so already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe here to my channel and then click on that bell notification so you're notified every single time I post another video, because you want to know, girl, you know what be going on YouTube. Number one, chronic inflammation. Now, chronic inflammation is going to trigger something in the body. What is it going to trigger? It leads to a chronic collagen disposition of the scalp. So let's break that down. Now, these growth factors listed here on the screen, known as the transforming growth factor beta, an overproduction of this leads to scarring and an excessive buildup in collagen along the hair scalp. Now, collagen is good in moderation, but if there's too much, this is a pro-inflammatory constituent that worsens fibrosis and actually suppresses hair follicle growth altogether. This next one is the tumor necrosis factor, alpha. This promotes scalp inflammation, scalp thickening, and hair follicle death. It promotes it in the body. It also reduces the blood flow to the scalp. This is what limits the blood flow and the oxygen to the scalp and the hair follicle that is essential, almost number one, for hair growth. Without this, there is no nutrients being delivered to the hair follicle. The key constituents involved in this process, like this one, that decrease levels of this constituent within the body, leads to weak blood vessel formation. This will lead to the starvation of the hair follicle. Now, when your body is not able to reduce this key constituent right here on the screen, this is going to lead to very low circulation of blood flow and oxygen flow to the hair follicle, which again is going to lead to hair follicle miniaturization. If you don't know what hair follicle miniaturization is, make sure you check the link in the description box below. There are so many layers to the human body and you won't learn everything in one video, but girl, I got most of it here on the channel, so let's get to it. So again, overproduction of collagen within the hairs, within the body, especially primarily the scalp. That's what we're talking about today. This forms a thick and really stiff scalp. Now, when collagen cross-linking is increased and amplified to the highest degree, when we're talking about scalp and follicle fibrosis, it is not reversible when it gets to a certain level. That is why I'm constantly preaching against certain practices. I'll forever be talking about it, regardless of how tired people get of me talking about these things, because once you do these things, they cannot be reversed. Let's keep going. Now, Now, over on my blog, I have a full list of herbs that help you to regulate all of the key constituents that get overturned or out of whack within the body. So check the link in the description box below. Head over to my blog. It's free 99 for you to read it, girl or boy. Give you all of the herbs that you can ingest to help you along this process. Right? Okay. So before, like, now that you know what you can do internally, let's get to some of the practices that you kind of should throw away that's leading you to have scalp fibrosis in the first place. So again, once it gets to a certain level, there's no reversing it. But if you stop doing all of the crazy stuff now, you can get ahead of it before it gets to a place that causes it to be irreversible. So let's talk about it. Very first thing you're going to do is reduce the form of inflammation within the body. So you have to stop the practices that are causing inflammation from an external source and from an internal source. Internally, turmeric, guta cola, which is in the apothecary, and green tea, which is also in the apothecary. You can drink that daily. One of my favorite blends to handle this is gunpowder green tea. So make sure you check that out in the description box below, because that can really help you to regulate the things that are going haywire hormonally within the body. You can also take magnesium and vitamin K2 to get ahead of this, to block this constituent here that we talked about previously. That's why you're supposed to be taking notes. You're supposed to be writing this down or putting it on the screen. Take the notes. So when we talk about, now that you know what scalp fibrosis is and you know that the cause is chronic inflammation, the thing that you now need to do is learn what is triggering your inflammation. I say on my channel all the time, if we talk about something like seborrheic dermatitis or something like androgenetic alopecia, right? Androgenetic alopecia is the end of the line, right? But before that form of alopecia, oh my god, I can't keep saying it. Before that form of alopecia, there was first inflammation. But before there was inflammation, there was something that triggered the inflammation. And the thing where everybody gets hung up at is figuring out the trigger. Nobody goes to the trigger. Everybody goes to the end thing, which is androgenetic alopecia or folliculitis or CCCA, and you go and tackle that instead of tackling the trigger. The reason that tackling the trigger is so important is because if you go to a doctor and they cure whatever that form is, right, the folliculitis, the seborrheic dermatitis, the CCCA, if the thing that triggered the inflammation in the first place is still happening, then the scalp disorder is never going to go away, because the cause is still going to be causing the effect. So that is why it's so important for people to lose their offense, because most of the time that's what's holding everybody hostage. A lot of women that were once Team Natural and identified as Team Natural and are at the beginning stages of scalp fibrosis, and like I've been saying for years, almost a decade now, girl, certain things are not reversible. That's why I was so intensely against rice water, because you're literally building bacteria in a jar. Like, you're building something in a jar and it's completely uncontrolled. And this form, scalp fibrosis, is the death of the follicle due to inflammation. The number one trigger to inflammation is an overgrowth of yeast and bacteria. So forget the natural yeast and bacteria that's on your scalp overgrowing. You're growing forms of yeast and bacteria in jars. Even the homemade products that you guys are doing, you're growing excessive forms of yeast and bacteria that lead to inflammation. And I think one of the things that confuses everybody is we have the instant gratification. So you think that if I make it today and I've been using it for 6 years and nothing's wrong, you think that everything's okay. But then you're also the same group of people who one day everybody is like, my Yale Organics, it made my hair fall out. Where in reality, what y'all are not thinking about, listen, most of y'all have already been in the process process of scalp necrosis anyway, fibrosis, I'm sorry. You've already been in the beginning stages of scalp fibrosis. So then when you, if and mind you, I already told you scalp fibrosis is the slow death and deterioration of and thickening of the scalp and the hair follicle, right? So if that's already been happening and your body's fighting against that, it's throwing everything that it got at that, and then the next thing you know, you go put something powerful like Mielle Organics tea tree or an essential oil or something like that on your head, and then next thing you know, all your hair comes out. And was the product too strong? Absolutely. But is the product 100% responsible? No, because most women are at the beginning or midway stages of scalp fibrosis. So I really hope that this makes sense, and I really hope that it taught you something different. Again, if you want to know a couple of different options for you to help your body on an internal level to fight some of the key constituents that lead to scalp fibrosis, then it'll be really easy for you to find over on my blog. I love you guys so much. I did not want to freak you out in this video, but I do need you to understand that the patterns and routines that you lead to are leading to scalp and follicle fibrosis. Another thing I want you to think about is those braids. You know how you get braids and things of that nature, and if it's really sore, you like, oh girl, I'm gonna just pop a Tylenol, and then you pop a Tylenol real quick and the pain goes away. Well, you are causing inflammation and slowly killing the hair follicle, and as the hair heals, as your scalp heals from the pain that you had, from the inflammation, from the braids being so tight, the layers on your scalp get thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, and before you know it, you have scalp fibrosis. So I really hope that this video makes sense, and I hope it encourages you to make better decisions and stop putting all that stuff in your hair, and stop letting these girls put all of that stuff on your scalp, because y'all at the beginning stages of fibrosis. I love you, girl.